Welcome to GrassRoot Ohio, conversations with everyday people working on important issues here in Columbus and all around Ohio. I'm Carolyn Harding, and today I'm talking with Charlotte Owens, Alaina Swope, and Katie O'Neill, Southeast Ohio progressive women candidates running to win. Charlotte Owens is the Democrat running for Ohio House District 78. Which includes all or part of 6 counties extending from Circleville to South Zanesville. In order to serve the people and not big money, she's pushing for an end to the corruption under Republican leadership at the state level. She supports and will work for workers, families, and small businesses to survive the pandemic. She stands for affordable access to health care, supporting and improving public education, and bridging the digital divide. Katie O'Neill is grateful to be the Democratic candidate for Ohio House District 94 on the centennial year of the 19th Amendment to our United States Constitution. She has a Bachelor of History and the Environment, Master of Energy Regulation and Law, and Juris Doctor of Law. She is dedicated to a plan that creates 100% renewable energy, economic sustainability, restorative justice, and a clean and healthy environment. She was raised in a public service family in Chagrin Falls, Ohio, and believes that you help those in need, care for those who are sick, and work for the greater good with integrity. Quotation from Katie is, "My family always believed that once I moved to Athens, Ohio, I would stay for a lifetime. And they were right." Alaina Swope is a working class progressive running for state representative in Ohio 97. She is a published researcher, organizer, and educator, and she's running to give this seat back to the people of Muskingum and Guernsey counties. For decades, her district has been represented by men who are completely out of touch with the people, and it shows. The 97th is facing an affordable housing crisis. They haven't seen any economic growth in decades, and a third of the people are living in poverty. When elected, Alaina will fight for higher wages, affordable housing for all, and campaign finance reform. Welcome, you three.
Thank you for having us.
I'm glad to have you, and I want to get your message out to the folks in Ohio. So tell us, what are your district's strengths and challenges? Let's start with you, Alaina.
Sure. So I think the most shallow challenge that I hear about my district, I hear about it most often, is that it's a conservative district, right? It has been written off by Democrats who might think that it's not winnable. And I know, because I was born and raised here, that's a shallow interpretation. And so the strength of my district is that we can look at the data, right? We can look at and acknowledge that there are more Republicans than there are registered Democrats. However, there are way more independents than registered Republicans. There are so many people in my home district who don't feel like they have a political home, and they keep electing conservatives because those are the only candidates really reaching out to them. So I am the first progressive to ever run for this seat. And so to the people who say that's impossible, I say, there's no way to know what's possible. This has never been attempted. So I see that as a massive strength, that we are showing Muskingum and Guernsey counties what a true representative could look like, and one that we have not had in several decades.
Excellent. How about you, Charlotte? What are the strengths and challenges for your district? And why don't you repeat the district too?
I'm in District 78. It is all or part of 6 counties from Circleville all the way to South Zanesville. So Circleville and Pickaway County, they're actually fairly close to Columbus. And so actually in the entire district, probably lots of people do commute to Columbus, though coming from Morgan County and Zanesville is a farther drive, but people come from a long way to commute to Columbus. The strengths of the district, I would say, are people love the country. They love A lot of people have lived there for generations. They are, so they have that sort of community. They have, well, in parts of the district, for instance, Highway 33 goes through Hocking County and comes up through Fairfield County. So they have the strength of infrastructure there as far as road access and rail and so forth. Zanesville, does not have, I-70 is not going through south of Zanesville, but it's still, they have access to I-70. As a disadvantage, other parts don't have. It's a harder drive. It's harder for transportation. So,
All right.
I'm hoping to offer something to them that, let's look at Southeast Ohio. Let's look at land that has been mined or reclaimed, and realize we need some help back. Wealth has been extracted. We need some help back to help and the community needs to have a voice in how to build what they need for the kind of community they want to have.
I hear you. How about you, Katie?
So I'm running for House District 94, which is most of Athens, Meigs, part of Washington County and Marietta, and part of Benton County over by Zaleski, Forest, and MacArthur. The strength of this district is its history. So this is the founding of Ohio. The Northwest Ordinance started in Marietta. People moved there, and throughout its history since 1787, there's been so much that has happened here. So we used to have salt and brick industry and coal, and now we have an area that has restored the forests that were cut down, has reclaimed and replenished the rivers that had acid mine drainage, and the acid mine chemicals are actually being used now by an artist. We have an incredible organic food movement and network here, and that's hard to do. I mean, that took decades to build the soil from the clay base. We've always been a energy district and region, and now we are transitioning to renewable energy with half a dozen businesses and 14 municipalities that are already at 100% renewable energy as of June 2020.
Wow.
So I would say the strength here is our ability to take what we have and produce something new, to look at the past and say, we made mistakes, and what we had and we used, was good then, but now we've got to, either restore or refurbish or transition into something new. And we've got the talent and the institutions such as Ohio University, Hocking College, Marietta University. So we've got so much enthusiasm and grit and hard work in our hearts. I mean, you can't keep us down. And I would say the challenge of this district right now that I'm really focused on is broadband. So that is essential. It's an essential service for our education, for our businesses, for our communication, especially now in a pandemic. I mean, everybody is relying upon the internet just to stay in touch with their family and their friends, let alone, get schoolwork done and do work. So I believe that every town should be able to, we've got these small historic towns, and I believe that every municipality should be able to offer broadband internet to its historic town and the businesses, which would attract businesses into these historic towns, because a deterrence of moving here is that you would be in, rural Southeast Ohio, among the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains, and can you get internet? Well, if the municipalities are offering that in the historic towns, now you've got a beautiful location in an incredible environment that is offering you the essential service that you need to get started.
Okay, you have a lot to say about your community, and you love your community. I can tell you all three love your communities. I'd like to dial back a little bit, because you guys are running in the gerrymandered districts, or at least two of you are. I'd like you to just tell us how you're dealing with that. Charlotte, let's start with you, and then Alaina, and then Katie, I think we'll talk about something else. But okay. Charlotte, go ahead.
As Alaina talked about, not all that many people vote in the primary, so most people do not have a party affiliation. The districts are mine is gerrymandered, so's hers. But the point is, I think we have values in common, so we have to be able to reach out. And so part of what we're doing is we're reaching out to Democrats, but we're also trying to reach out to Republicans. And part of the issue is, for instance, my opponent, we need to talk about the problem of, one of the problems of gerrymandering and unfair districts is people don't feel their votes matter. Especially if they're part of the minority party, they don't feel like their votes matter. This is not good for democracy. Also, one party rule is just not good for democracy, whether it's all Democratic in Columbus or all Republican in Fairfield County and other counties. So this is just not good. And it also leads to corruption in the state legislature and in state government, as we've seen. What with Speaker Householder and 4 others being charged in a $61 million bribery racketeering scheme with First Energy, who wants to prop up their 2 old nuclear power plants that need to be closed. So part of what that money went to was to get Householder elected. And part of that was to go to money in the 2018 election to help elect other representatives who would support him for speaker. And that worked. He got elected speaker. He got House Bill 6 through, and so forth. So in 2020, January of 2020, so House Bill 6 is already through, but Householders PAC put the maximum into supporting my opponent in the primary. And so as soon as Householder was arrested, my opponent came out and said, I'll donate all that money. But still, if my opponent, I would say, needs to self-reflect whether he feels he was bought by Householder, because you can bet Householder probably thought he was bought. And I will put in, again, I think this is a scandal itself. You know what the maximum amount is that you can give to an individual House representative? Over $13,000. Wow. And so he got $13,292.35, I think. And see, this is outrageous, because think about the presidential campaign. The limit there that you can give as an individual is like $2,800. So that's a drop in the bucket compared to the entire size of the presidential campaign. Where if you got a few people together, each wanting to give $13,000 to a representative candidate here in the legislature, boy, you've paid for a representative.
Well, how about you, Alaina? Right before I have your answer, I just want to tell folks this is GrassRoot Ohio. I'm Carolyn Harding, and I'm talking with 3 progressive candidates for Southeast Ohio: Charlotte Owens, Katie O'Neill, and Alaina Swope. So, Alaina, why don't you tell us what's going on for your district in gerrymandering?
Yes. So I consider myself lucky to be running in the district I am. It is slightly gerrymandered, as in like it cuts out South Zanesville, and that's where Charlotte's district kind of comes in. So it is complicated to voters, I think, more than anything, to understand what district they're in, because most of Zanesville is in my district. So I talk about Zanesville a lot. It's where I live. But then like I just recently had to turn some signs away from folks who wanted one in South Zanesville, and I directed them to Charlotte's campaign because I do not represent them. And then thankfully I have the rest of Muskingum County and all of Guernsey County completely. So it has not been a challenge just for my campaign for traveling. And I have been a part of campaigns, you know, where gerrymandered districts really influence how long it takes you to travel to one part of the district for one event, and then having to go, you just end up wasting a lot of time, and time is the most valuable resource on a campaign. So for me, gerrymandering is a statewide issue. It is like Charlotte touched on very well, it's an issue of how we can hold our representatives accountable. And when you look at something like House Bill 6, it was a deeply unpopular bill before we knew about the bribery involved. There were so many people who testified against it. I would need to verify this, but it was upwards of 300 people testified against this bill. It was some of the most activity that legislators had seen, because for the most part, people aren't calling their state legislator to talk about an issue. A lot of people aren't paying attention, but people paid attention to House Bill 6. But even with that overwhelming amount of pushback, it didn't matter to the legislators who pushed it through, because they are sitting on gerrymandered, illegitimate thrones. And the voices of the people don't matter that much, because for the most part, they've been drawn out of their maps. So gerrymandering, even though my district doesn't, you know, I don't see that too much. I don't have a very oddly shaped district like Charlotte does, and like a lot of other candidates do. It comes down to, like Charlotte again said, people having confidence in their vote as a tool. And it's a matter of holding people accountable. And until we get fair maps, it's nearly impossible to hold them accountable and to tell them to answer to us, the voters. And it breeds corruption, and there's no way forward to strengthen the state without fair maps.
Agree. And how about you, Katie? You're running against an incumbent, Republican?
Yes, the House Majority Whip, Jay Edwards. Larry Householder used to represent Athens County from like 97 to 2004, where he left under smoke and mirrors of scandal then. So Jay Edwards has been his right-hand man. Can I just briefly go back to something that Charlotte touched upon? So the maximum amount to give in each election, so you can give a maximum of just over $13,000 twice in an election cycle. Mind you that the poverty line of Southeast Ohio, you know, we suffer from 30% of the population being in the poverty line area. Well, $13,000 is a year of a person working. So you can't say that one person, one vote is the standard when somebody that is wealthy can give a working class person's entire year salary twice in an election. It's not fair. That doesn't represent the people. And so, you know, my opponent has got, I don't know, close to $500,000 in his bank account. I don't know where he's getting that kind of money in one of the most poverty-stricken districts in the state and nation. So as far as gerrymandering goes, I've been working with Michael Fletcher, who's seat 30 along the Ohio River. And I mean, that's just an impossible district to cover. And so it's been, I don't feel I'm suffering so much from gerrymandering. I'm very pleased with, my district. But working with Michael, knowing that I would like to be able to coordinate with, people that will be elected to the Senate, I am wrapped up in his world of gerrymandering, trying to strategize, how do you reach everybody? Although, taking a tour along the Ohio River is nice.
Let's go on to something then. I want to hear what you planning to do for your district. Why you were inspired to run, and what your skill sets are, and what you and I would like no more than five actions that you're going to do. So I'd like to start with Alaina. I'd like to know why you, and what are the top 5 things you're going to do for your district?
I love this question. I like how direct it is. Yes. So why me? I spent my life in this district, and I did not feel like there was opportunity for me here. And I was lucky enough to be able to go to school and get my degree and travel the world. And throughout that experience for me in college, and through my travels, I had my home on my mind, because all of these amazing places I got to see, like, those opportunities just don't exist in this area. And I had to think about why. And the campaigns that I worked on while I was in college for the past 5 years, the campaigns I've worked on, I got to see organizers and candidates rally for change and organize for change and figure out solutions together, because there are solutions in policy. None of this is inevitable, right? Like our plight as a county and as a district is not inevitable. It doesn't have to be like this. We are set up in a system that is not working for us, and we can create a new system. And so I have spent the past 5 years of my life working on campaigns, organizing, working for this. And okay. And so that's why me. I am working class. Nothing has been handed to me. I've worked for everything. This seat was handed to my opponent. And so the things that I will do, right, once I get in there, is I will fight to raise the minimum wage. I will fight like hell to do that. It is long overdue. 15 is not enough, but it is where we will start. Then I will fight for broadband expansion. I will fight to create affordable housing projects within my district, because we desperately need it. Families don't have places to live. And education reform. I will fight to change the formula to where we do not rely so heavily on local property taxes to fund our public schools. That public funding needs to be coming from the state. It is a matter of budget priorities. And I will leave it at that before I ramble more.
Oh, no, that was quite clear. Thank you, Alaina. How about you, Katie? 5 things you plan to do for your district.
Okay, so I want 100% renewable energy by 2030. This is a national and global competition that we are in right now. And Ohio can do this. In 2019, we were leading the Midwest with renewable energy jobs with 114,000. So we have the ability to expand that industry and support it by having a renewable portfolio standard, which mandates that we all reach to 100% renewable energy. This is going to create jobs. This is going to attract people to our state. And this is going to give us an opportunity to become the inventors and leaders that we have historically always been. So that is number one. And with that comes a slew of things, right? So right now we have methane gas as a renewable energy source in our portfolio standard. And that was a giveaway to the gas and oil industry, because methane gas is the base of natural gas, which is at least 84 times as potent of a greenhouse gas as carbon dioxide in the first 20 years that it is emitted. Well, we are in the 20-year crunch time. So this is outrageous. We have to immediately change that standard. We also need to ban injection wells. So this is a practice that is circumventing the Clean Water Act, which Ohio inspired because we caught the Cuyahoga River on fire 13 different times. So now we're just putting the gas and oil that caught the river on fire underground and saying, don't worry about that. No, that practice has got to end. So those are, you know, 3 right off the bat. Of course, the broadband, and I want to bring that to every town. I also want to increase the testing in our water. So right now, the Ohio River is the most polluted river in the nation and has been for a decade. And quite frankly, C8 that poisoned the Ohio River has now contaminated 99% of the bloodstream globally. So we have a responsibility for our water. We have a long history of learning that lesson. So I want to increase our testing to include benzene, radium 226 and 228, formaldehyde, and methane gas.
Hey, Katie, I've got to move on because we are running out of time, and I'm going to give Charlotte her 5. Charlotte, give folks, what are the 5 things that you want to make happen in your district, for your district?
Okay. I'm a chemistry instructor, and one of the things I start out the course with and I most want my students to ask is, what's the evidence? Because the difficulty is, how do we come together? And when people have different facts, then you're never going to come together. But one of the things about science is trying to step back and keep our feelings out of it and look at the evidence, which is extremely tough to do. But if you're going to try to get people to come together from different viewpoints, we have to both try to do that. So we've got to address the pandemic. The economy is not going to turn around until we address the pandemic. And so we need to be able to, we need to enforce masks, but we need to, and help, if people have gone back to school, we need to support funding for schools so they can work on their, their air distribution system and the safety of it. We need to,
we have 30 seconds, Charlotte. 30 seconds, Charlotte. Wrap it up in 30 seconds.
Let me tell you, parts of my district don't even have water utility, and they don't have enough water. And so you get used to, you can see the trucks going around with tanks in the back where they buy water. They need basic utilities. They need the digital, to cross the digital, we need to bridge the digital divide, but they don't have cell service. And if they want to have the economic development so that people can live out there, they need more help.
Okay, friends, one more thing real quick.
Efficiency, when you're talking about green jobs, efficiency is the first thing, and upgrading housing will create local jobs.
Okay, everybody go to these women's websites, Alaina Swope, Charlotte Owens, Katie O'Neill. You can get all kinds of information about these wonderful progressive women running to help make Ohio a sustainable and wonderful state to live in. Thank you so much for joining us in GrassRoot Ohio.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.